Welcome to the deep dive. Look, you're probably here because you've heard the news about a potential NJ Transit engineers strike. And, well, you want the key facts fast.
And fast is key, yeah. Because as of today, May 6th, 2025, we're looking at just 10 days until a possible stoppage. That could really throw a wrench in the works for commutes.
Absolutely. So, the heart of it all seems to be these stalled pay talks. It's between NJ Transit and the union, the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers, and Trainmen, the BLET.
Right. They represent about 450 engineers, the actual people driving the trains.
Exactly. And what we want to do in this deep dive is really unpack the situation. There are conflicting stories flying around.
Very conflicting.
We need to understand why these talks hit a dead end and, critically, what this could actually mean for you for your daily travel.
Yeah, we've got statements from both NJ Transit and the union. And honestly, it's striking how different their versions of events are. It's like they weren't even in the same room.
Okay, let's dive into that first big contradiction then. NJ Transit's CEO Kris Kolluri, he's put out there that the union demanded a $225,000 wage.
Which he framed as a $90,000 increase.
A huge jump. And he says they basically shunned NJ Transit's offer of $172,000. So on the surface, that looks like a pretty wide gap.
It does. But then you hear from the union side, Tom Haas, he's the general chairman for the BLET, so their main negotiator.
Okay.
He says that claim about a $172,000 offer. Simply not the case, his words. He even said they'd have accepted that in a heartbeat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a direct contradiction. How do we square that? Why would the numbers be so wildly different?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It often points to, either a serious communication breakdown or maybe they're calculating compensation differently, like is one side, including future raises or benefit values in their total.
Right. Could be how they're crunching the numbers. It really makes you wonder what actually transpired in those negotiation rooms. So from the union's point of view, why did things fall apart?
Haas argues NJ Transit had a take-it-or-leave-it attitude. He claims they rejected the union's counteroffer pretty much out of hand, just shut down the discussion.
And did he give figures for their counteroffer?
He did. He said their proposal would put the average engineer at $170,000 in 2029. So that includes what they see as standard industry-level annual increases over the next few years.
Okay, wait. So $170,000 by 2029. That sounds much closer to the $172,000 figure NJ Transit supposedly offered.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which makes Kolluri's claim that the union counter was for an average of $225,000 per year even more puzzling.
So where does that $225K figure come from then in NJ Transit's view? Is it maybe the peak salary in the proposal or?
It's not entirely clear how they arrived at that average, but Kolluri is sticking to it. And he's definitely sounding the alarm about the financial impact.
What kind of impact?
He's warning that meeting what he says the union demanded could force potentially a 34% fare increase for riders.
Ouch, 34%.
Yeah. Or, alternatively, businesses might face something like a 37% hike in corporate taxes to cover it. These are the kinds of real-world consequences he's putting on the table.
Those are stark choices. It really highlights that tension, doesn't it? Balancing fair pay for essential workers against keeping public transit affordable?
Exactly. And it's not an abstract problem anymore. The clock is ticking. After midnight, May 16th, that's the deadline. If there's no deal, the strike could begin.
Less than 10 days. Okay, so what happens then? What's the plan if the trains stop running?
Well, NJ Transit has put together a contingency plan. They're saying they'll try to accommodate a limited number of commuters.
Limited being the key word there, I imagine.
Definitely. Their advice is pretty blunt. Limit your travel to essential purposes only. They're really managing expectations.
So if you rely on NJ Transit, you absolutely need to check this out. Where can people find the details?
On NJ Transit's website, they're directing everyone there for the full contingency plan and, crucially, for any updates on the talks themselves. It seems like you should be prepared for major disruption.
And this disruption won't hit everywhere equally, right?
No, exactly. Councilman Yusuf Saleh in Jersey City pointed this out. Places like Jersey City, Hoboken, dense urban areas, really dependent on train service, they'd be hit especially hard.
Yeah, you can imagine the chaos. It really shows how vital that rail network is.
It underpins so much of the regional economy and daily life.
It seems like nobody actually wants a strike, though. We've heard that from both sides, haven't we?
Yes, both Kolluri for NJ Transit and Haas for the union have said they'd prefer to avoid it. And you have state leaders, like Assemblywoman Jessica Ramirez, urging them to find common ground.
You know, something that respects the workers but keeps the trains running.
That shared desire to avoid a walkout is maybe A small positive sign.
A glimmer of hope, perhaps?
Perhaps. But I mean, that huge gap in their stories about the basic numbers, what was offered, what was demanded, that's a major hurdle. They need to bridge that understanding gap first.
Right. It's hard to agree on a solution if you can't even agree on the starting point.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's just recap quickly. We're potentially days away from an NJ Transit strike. The core issue is pay, but there are fundamentally different accounts from NJ Transit and the Engineers Union about the offers and demands. Like, really different.
Hugely different figures being thrown around.
And the potential impact on you, the commuter, is serious. NJ Transit is already advising essential travel only if a strike happens.
And while nobody says they want to strike, reaching a deal seems, well, challenging right now given how far apart they seem to be on the facts.
So the bottom line for you listening, stay tuned. Keep checking NJ Transit's official channels. Their website is probably best for the latest. Know the contingency plan.
Absolutely crucial right now.
And maybe, stepping back, it makes you think, doesn't it? How do we manage these situations in essential services like transit? You have this need for fair compensation for the people doing vital work.
Absolutely.
But also the need to keep the service running and affordable for everyone who depends on it. It's a tough balancing act.
It really is. And when talks break down like this, the ripples go way beyond just the inconvenience of finding another way to work. It affects businesses, the economy, the whole rhythm of the region.
Definitely something to consider. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.